Have you heard of modular origami? Bit of a mouthful, I know. Well, there's something very closely related to it, which is modular playing cards. Where instead of having a piece of origami thin tissue paper and creating lots of them and putting and assembling them, you do it with a single card and have lots of them and do the same cuts. So let's have a look at a version I've got of it here, which is very, very charming. This is the playing card, and that's the cut you're going to do in it. You've got just those cuts, and you've got to do that very precisely through a lot of cards. The cut is not quite a straightforward cut, it's two very thin lines, so that when you put the pieces together they don't veer all over the place. And then you start assembling them like that, and they sit very nicely at right angles, and you've got to do it with a lot more cards, all with exactly the same cut. At the end of it, you find with this number of cards, you can make a little rebus, they call it, this way, and this way, but with all the cards together like that. And that's something I spent many, many hours assembling. It was easy enough to cut them up, that was the easier part of it, but assembling I'm not very good at. You have to have a good three-dimensional mind, I think it is. But eventually, when I'd succeeded, that's the figure I got. 2 cards this way, 2 cards that way, 2 cards X, Y, and Z, and an extraordinary version done by a Japanese chap, who I think not only was a clever inventor, but his assistant was even better than I could ever be at assembling them, because they then did a 3x3x3 version, which I found, I looked at the picture and said, not for me. And my friend who was introducing me to the chap said, what about 4x4x4? Oh my, that would be taking me forever, I think. But that's made by the Japanese, and my friend brought it over from Japan. And it's 4 cards this way, 4 cards that way, 4 cards the other way. The slits are a little different from this, not a lot different. It's surprising how simple the idea is, but it's assembling, which is an absolute fiend. But what a challenge, what a lot of fun. This I would perhaps do again, but I don't think I'd even attempt that or so. Now, here's an earlier version of this, which I've had in my collection for many years. A simple, very simple little one of just 3 cards, assembled together like that. I came across a lovely version of this because it was given out at one of our conventions where we exchanged mechanical puzzles, and they called it a puzzle burr and a little plinth to put it on, which I thought was charming, because the plinth is made of one of those plastics which sort of glows at the corner. I don't know what they call it, but it's got a lovely appearance to it. And it sits on the table like that, fully made up and very, very charming. So I like the way when they finish it off, they make it look like that. And more recently, I've come across a version of this where you've got 3 cards at right angles, not quite the same, but nearly the same. But this time you add some pieces to it to form the walls. So if I take this out, you'll see that something similar to that on the inside of the card going on there. So the blue cards, the blue backed, have got this 3 pieces intersecting at right angles, and then you've got to make more slits and assemble it into that version like that, which is quite challenging actually, but it's certainly within my remit to be able to do that. It's not too hard, I don't think. And the next one is something I was given some time ago. This is astonishing how simple the thing is to actually construct. I've actually made a version with a nesting set here, so one's inside the other, but I'll just concentrate on this one, because this is a box made with quite a few cards, but they've only got 2 folds to them, which makes them very simple. There's the simplest of all folds of cards is when you just get a card and do that to it. And you do a number of those for the hinges and the corners. Every corner's got one of theirs in the corner. You've got a corner in the bottom like that, and so on. And the other thing, which is very clever, is to make a wall like that, quite rigid, by doing that. Which means you take the card and you fold over there, and then you've got to do a clever thing and infold these into the slots there. And when you try to do the top one, it's a bit tricky to do. You've got to do a bit of fiddly to get that to slide. It's got to roll over, and it's not easy to make the cards roll. They don't want to roll, but that's the eventual. What you do is make the card roll, and see if you get that to roll. Come on, dear. Roll. There we are. So that's the wall, and then to make a hinge, you just put that in there like that, or a corner, and away you go. And ultimately, you're left with something a bit like that. And when you put it over here like that, it's made the final top of the box. I'm teaching you slightly because I've got to insert that in there, but it's tricky to do. But the end result is a box all made out of cards which are almost identically folded, but very, very simple. Modular cards. The last thing to show you is a little something which Ian Rowland, a friend of mine I've known for many years, does with playing cards, which I think are quite remarkable. And these are the most advanced I've ever come across, of these playing cards which seem to be impossible. And he's made me a set of about 20 of these. And these are really quite astonishing how he's done them. And what I like about his artwork is he sometimes does a leap forward into a different field altogether. And so this is the one I really enjoy playing with, because it's got some 4 queens of clubs. That's a picture, untouched. This is a picture that has been touched. It's been cut with a slot in it. That's been cut with a slot in it. And this wasn't even part of a picture. This was actually a playing card. And somehow he's got it entrapped in there, impossibly. You think it's got to be cut and then secretly, then perhaps glued together or something. But no, he's done something very, very clever to produce that. Playing cards then are a tremendous source of fun. Sometimes I do play canasta and bridge and poker, but the most fun I have is these sort of things, where I can assemble them into something like modular origami, like modular playing cards. It's a lot of fun.